I often say, I said it last week at the boot camp, one call can change your day, one day can change your week, one week can change your month, one month can change your year, and 1 year can change your whole life. 2013 was the year that changed my life.
I've had so many experiences like that where on the front end it's really great, and then somewhere along the journey you're like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, where did we lose that?
This started so well, and now either it's the customer service on from that, or it's the next person you deal with. It's night and day. And I think it takes a lot of awareness to think like you have outside the box and not just judge the person for what they did that morning and go.
And I learned to love I never loved selling. I loved the process of selling, and that's my engineering brain kicked in then. And I started to realize if I asked this question here instead of here, or if I used this tone here instead of here, then people would open up to me more and I'd have more of a conversation, and selling became fun in a way.
All right, welcome back to the show. This week's episode, I have Australia's #1 sales coach, the founder of SWISH. He has helped over 21,500 businesses and individuals and coached them globally. He's worked with the likes of Amex, Mercedes-Benz, National Storage, and Westpac, shared the stage with some huge names such as Jordan Belfort, Jeremy Minor, Brad Lee, David Goggins, and recently spent time with Sir Richard Branson on his private island. Please make a warm welcome for Mr. Ryan Tuckwood. Welcome to the show, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate. That sounded like it was my private island. I spent time with Richard Branson.
His private
on his private island. Yeah, I'll take that. We can edit that.
I love it. Ryan, what I love most about you too is I've had the opportunity to see you like teach and speak on stages, and you're just so fun and interactive. And the way you teach sales, I think sales can be quite like methodical and just do this and do this and do this. But the way you teach is super engaging and super inspiring, and so much so that I've wanted to learn more from you. How did you get into sales? Like, what I'm really curious about with humans is like, how do they get passionate about the thing that they're in? Why sales? Like, what led you to sales?
Firstly, I'll just address the fun part, because it's one of our principles, is that sales should be enjoyable.
Right.
It should be enjoyable for both consumer and consultant. It shouldn't be icky. It shouldn't feel forced, or we've all sat on the other end of a sales conversation, and we can tell when the salesperson's veering towards closing us.
Yeah.
And it's just awkward. It's horrible. We used to get clammy. I used to get a red rash on my neck when I was closing. So I'm glad that comes across, because I do genuinely enjoy it now.
Yeah.
Where did it come from? It came from a genuine frustration because I wasn't very good at it. My background's engineering. I was a mechanical maintenance engineer for 8 years in the UK, so very process driven, very technical. I lived in a world of perfect. There was no room for error. And now I speak on stage in front of 4,000 variables, where anything could go wrong. So I've had to lose that perfectionism status pretty quick. Moved here 2010. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wasn't fulfilled being an engineer at home. I often talk about the difference between achievement and fulfillment. I was achieving. I had a house, property, I had a dog, a girlfriend of 5 years. I drove a nice car. I was the successful one in my family, but I wasn't fulfilled. So I moved over here as a backpacker, and I definitely never thought I'd end up in sales. I just didn't know what I was going to do, and definitively knew I didn't want to be an engineer anymore.
Yeah.
Found myself living in Broadbeach, met a few British lads, as you do, home from home, but I couldn't get a job because I was a backpacker, because you can only work for one company for 6 months. And one of the guys, Jack, who ended up becoming the co-founder of SWISH with me, coaxed me into a call center, and that's where it started. There's like more to that, but that's where it's
call center, like cold calling.
Damn right, dirty cold calling. $300 a day. My job was to call a total stranger, and I had 15 to 90 seconds to find out if you had $15,000 to $25,000 liquid cash in your bank account.
So again, how many seconds?
15 to 90 seconds. So within a minute and a half, my job was to find out if you had $15,000 to $25,000 liquid cash. And if you did, and you were polite enough to tell me, or stupid enough to tell me how much money you got in your bank, I would tick 15, 25, whatever amount you had liquid. I would circle it and then like a range, and then I would put it in a tray, and every hour the receptionist would come out. She'd pick up all the leads in that tray. She'd take it through to the closers in the other room, and then they would call you 24 hours later and sell you financial services, trading platforms, and all a range of stuff that turned out to actually be not scammy, but it definitely wasn't given the results that I thought it was when I first joined.
Yeah. And, you know, sales, there's lots of different ways to sell in different sales roles.
Yeah.
Would you say that cold calling is right up there with one of the hardest?
Oh, I think it's, yeah, it is. It is one of the hardest, but I'm so grateful for it now.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it back then. We were doing $300 a day. I got paid $400 a week for the pleasure. And if I didn't hit my $300 a day or 4 hours a day phone time, I wouldn't get my retainer for that day. And I'm getting 295 people a day telling me to F off, go away and die. Like real abuse. And I'm not a confrontational person. I don't like friction. I'm a bit of a goody two shoes. Like I never had detention, never been in trouble with the police. I've never smoked or had any drugs. I'm boring, I guess, in that regard. So to get people really abusing me from nowhere, I'm just backpacking, enjoying my life, and everyone's like hating on me. I'm like, well, what is this? This is horrendous. And 3 months in, I'm bottom of the sales board. There was 21 people out of 21 people in the room. I was 21st for 3 months straight, and that's where I say that was my crisis point, because at the same time I had 31 cents left in my bank, and you hit a crossroads in life where you make a choice, and my choice was to go home. And I pulled Jack aside. I spoke to my ex-girlfriend, well, my ex-wife now, Alicia, and I said, sales is not for me. I'm done. I'm gonna go back to the UK. And she said she'd support me, go wherever we wanted to go. And it was Jack that wouldn't let me quit. And that's why I'm so passionate about communication. I often say that one conversation, one statement, one quote, one belief system from somebody else given to you can change the whole trajectory of your life. And the day that I quit, Jack did that for me, because he said to me, I'm not letting you quit because you haven't even tried. And what he meant was I hadn't truly tried to understand the art and craft of sales and communication.
Yeah.
And he was right, because I didn't believe that it was a skill. And that still haunts me a little bit, because now I teach it. But I didn't believe. I thought you were either born with the gift of the gab or you weren't. And the biggest insult that I get these days is, oh, Ryan, it's all right for you. That rolls off your tongue. And I'm like, 330,000 cold calls later, things roll off my tongue.
100%.
But getting kicked in the teeth that many times really helps now, because a lot of the people that we coach have the same anxiety and fears around not just cold calling, but selling or speaking to humans, networking in general, that I used to have. So I get it. I feel it.
What really made you stay in it? You know, like 31 cents left to your name. You're like, this ain't for me. You know, he obviously said that, you know, you haven't really tried yet.
Yeah.
How did he get you to turn that corner? I mean, because that has totally changed the trajectory of your life.
Completely.
To where you are now, doing what you're doing, ironically, in sales.
Yeah. I'd arguably be back making beer cans, which is what I was doing. I was working in an engineering plant, sheet metal fabrication. I would have gone back to that comfort zone. And so what made me stay? Results. How I got results was I stopped caring. And what I mean by that is Jack set me an ultimatum. He said, give me 60 days. And I've since found out our average Westerner takes 66 days to form new habits and behaviors. He said, give me 60 days or 2 months. And if you don't go from 21st to 20th after fanatically obsessing over this, and I mean like living and breathing sales for 2 months, then I'll pay for your flight. You and Alicia, I'll pay for you to go wherever you want in the world, but leave here knowing you gave this a really good crack. So in that moment, I just thought, it doesn't matter. All of a sudden, it actually didn't matter. This idiot's gonna pay for my flights. And all I've got to do is get told to piss off another 300 times a day. I've been doing it for 3 months anyway. What's the worst that could happen? So I stopped caring. And the second I stopped caring, I stopped looking at the sales board. I stopped looking at the leads as commission. I stopped looking at the lead as an opportunity for me to buy something nice. And to be fair, just in the middle of this, my old boss Shane said something really good to me. He said every single lead is an opportunity to learn something. So even if you don't make a sale, just see what you can learn.
Absolutely.
Just in life, it could be about anything.
Yeah.
So I started to look at every conversation as an opportunity to learn. inadvertently along the way created something that I now call my 60-second legacy, which is at the end of every single call, I will leave a legacy on somebody, good, bad, or indifferent.
Love that.
So what that is the second that I leave your presence, I walk out of the studio now. You could talk to the people that run the studio. You could talk to colleagues. Somebody might go, what was he like? Whatever you say, the instinct that comes out of your mouth, that's my 60-second legacy.
I love that.
And I used to just think, how can I leave this person in a better place than where I found them on the phone? So instead of me trying to push an agenda or trying to ask questions that would coerce them to buy something, I just have a chat and actually try to, sounds so obvious, actually try to connect to the human.
Yeah.
So when I focused on connections instead of commissions, all of a sudden I made commission.
Yeah.
And I went from 21st to 1st in 5 weeks.
21st to 1st, not just 20th.
It didn't even take me 60 days. It took me 5 weeks.
Wow.
I went to the top of the board. So that's why I stayed, because I've gone, shit, there's something in this. This is, and bear in mind, like I was studying, I was Tom Hopkins, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Jordan Belfort, dare I say. Say what you want about Jordan. He was the first person that showed me that sales was a process. He just used it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have gone to jail if it didn't work. So it works.
So true.
And I learned to love I never loved selling. I loved the process of selling, and that's my engineering brain kicked in then.
Yeah.
And I started to realize if I asked this question here instead of here, or if I use this tone here instead of here, then people would open up to me more, and I'd have more of a conversation, and selling became fun in a way.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, part of what every business owner does is sales, and I can even reflect on times in my own life. The more, in a way, detached you are and the less you need it, the easier it is.
Yeah.
The less you cling to it, the less you push, and the more you actually try to connect to the human, as you said, the more likely you are to actually get the result.
It's easier said than done, though.
It is, because you still need to make money in a business, right? So how do you put that to the side when you know you need to make money, but then you also need to care a bit less about whether you get the result?
Well, I think firstly, I just addressed the easier said than done part. I don't know whether Jack was being genius here, and because he said, like, he didn't say to me disconnect from the sale. He said just fanatically obsess, and if you don't improve, I'll pay for your flies. By default, I disconnected from the sale, so I actually had it didn't matter. I had a safety net. So I guess the question is, if you're a business owner, you don't have a safety net, and you need to pay bills, you need to pay staff. I got kids.
Yeah.
You have responsibilities. I guess it's trusting a process. And I've invested over $540,000 in mentors and coaches. And prior to moving to Australia, I'd never invested a cent. I wasn't in the personal development world.
Yeah.
To the age of like 27, 28. So finding someone that has genuinely been there and done it, and not somebody that's just watched and teaches, but watched, done, and taught. And find as much proof to validate for yourself that this is plausible, but plausible for you as well. Anybody can do this.
Yeah.
We've had people that are 17 years old, 83 years old, all industries and sectors, introverts, extroverts. It doesn't matter. There is a formula to human beings making a decision, which is selling or buying.
Yeah.
So I think you got to find a process that works for you, and I dare say go all in.
Yeah.
Like you need to have a greater reason. I never used to write goals at all. I know you might laugh at that, but I never used to have goals or vision boards. I just think it was so fluffy. And now I'm like, if I didn't have a picture of my dad's had cancer for many, many years. If I didn't have a picture of my mum and dad helping them out in retirement, I'm not making that extra phone call that I'm potentially going to get abuse on.
Yeah.
Like you need to have a greater reason than you. Otherwise you'll default to, this is hard. What's the point? I'll go and get a job again.
Yeah.
Which is what most people unfortunately do.
Yeah. That's very true. After working with over 21,000 different individuals, coaches, companies, what throughout that whole process has really stood out to you? Like, what makes a great salesperson? What are the key characteristics that they have? You hear about these people that they love going through the experience. Like, they love buying from them. They don't even feel like they're being sold to. Like, what makes a really great salesperson who can get people over the line in a way that feels good for them?
I think if we look at it from a mindset perspective, you've got to have a level of resilience, because even the great salespeople will disproportionately be rejected.
Absolutely.
It's like the greatest sports people. There's all those analogies and quotes around how many shots that you have to take before you hit the winning shot, but they're the ones that people remember. Yes, I've disproportionately done very, very well from a sales perspective, but I bet I've been rejected 100,000 times more than most people at the same time. So I think resilience is really important.
Yeah.
And I'm still struggle to find, and I'm happy to be educated, find a way of building resilience without experience.
Absolutely.
I don't know if there is. So you actually have to live it. You have to go through, and you have to feel the emotions of frustration and anger and rejection. So I think resilience is important. A genuine curiosity. I'm DISC accredited, so I teach DISC and emotional motivational drivers. And when I realized that, and this is only internal data that I've got through SWISH, I don't have it outside of SWISH, but the best salespeople for me personally have been female S personality types. So they are S personality type is a steady person, they are relationship orientated, and they're naturally curious. Secondary to that is when they find something that works, they'll stick to it, which is really important. I'm a C personality type, so I'm very process driven. But if I find a process that works, I'll stick to it. The dominant and the influencer personality types get bored of their own process that works. So they'll find something that works and then go, I'm bored of this now, and they'll change it. So I think an ability to have discipline within the same procedure and go, I'm doing this because I know that it works. I'm not doing this because it's exciting.
Yeah.
Not everything that you do in business is going to be fun. Or life or sales, actually. Majority, yeah. I mean, I'm not a big advocate for the 4-hour work week, and sorry if people are listening wanting to do that. I think it's hard.
It is.
Business is hard, and do I spend more time 10 years in now doing things that I enjoy? Yes, because I'm 10 years in.
Exactly.
But it took a hell of a swing. So I think resilience, discipline to follow a process, and just genuinely being curious, because when you're curious you'll ask deeper questions, and it's the bravery actually to ask those deep questions which will get you the intelligence that you need to leverage to then promote your product in the right way for what they need.
Yeah, I love it. And I think last time I did something in the room with you, when Jeremy Mine was out, we came for the 1-day thing, and you were talking about disc profiling. How quickly can you determine someone's profile?
It's almost instantaneous, 15 seconds.
What would you say that I would be?
You are because I've met you a few times now, so let's think about your emails as well. You're an IS.
IS, yeah. As you were saying the steady stuff before, because initially I thought I'm a DI. I'm a DI, but then I'm definitely I. But then the S part, when you were like, they find something that works and they keep doing it. I do that. I do that a lot. And I've really noticed that about myself now, and even some of the clients that we have that we mentor in their coaching businesses. I'm like, you've got to put your feelings to the side. Yeah. You've got to stick to the process. You've got to read the data. You've got to get the numbers and trust in that. Don't trust in your feelings all the time. So,
well, there's a difference between cognitive empathy and emotional empathy.
Yeah.
And I used to be an emotional empathetic salesperson, which means I join their trauma. So they go, oh, I'm just really struggling at the minute. I've got some family issues going on. I'm going for a breakup. And I'm like, no way. I'm going for a divorce as well. And are you feeling like this? And we just trauma bond.
Yeah.
Whereas cognitive empathy is the ability to take your story and not join it. So I still hear you. I don't understand. I can never understand exactly what you're going through. I can respect and appreciate it, but I'm going to help you find a solution right now. And I think a lot of S personality types, the I's as well, but the S personality types, they'll get connected to the story too soon, and all of a sudden you're in this trauma bond, and now I feel uncomfortable selling a product to you because I believe you are in so much turmoil. I don't want to take your money, even though I know you need what I have to offer. I'm a C, so I'm more task orientated than people orientated, so I can do that disconnect. My issue was what's the right word for it? I was so determined to not be seen as a cheesy salesperson. I didn't want to be a salesperson. That I would connect with you so much so you didn't think I was a salesperson. So I'm almost falsely connecting in a way, if I'm being honest. I'm getting so far into your trauma instead of going, I'm here to help you get out of this. So when I switched that on and actually became the person that I actually am, whilst understanding your persona, game change.
Yeah. I really resonate with that, because I think there's a point where you can lose the frame in the whole situation too, and you're just now you're there just having a chat.
Yeah, you're supposed to be serving.
Yeah.
And I've genuinely been on the bathroom floor with 31 cents to my name. So when people say to me they've got no money,
Boom.
I go, I get that, right? I was a backpacker, it doesn't matter how good your product was. I had no access to a credit facility because I was a backpacker. My mum and dad don't have money. I've never come from money. You could have had some of $200. I had 31 cents. So when I hear you don't have money, I buy into that and I go, you actually don't have any money. But what I've realized now 10 years later, 15 years later in total, is that you saying you had no money might be that you're down to your last $3,000. And my program that's $1,000 can actually change your life. I have a responsibility and a duty of care to take that $1,000 right now.
Absolutely.
To give you the service in response.
Absolutely.
And when I got to grips with that internally,
yeah,
it meant that I could genuinely help more people.
Yeah, I think it takes the pressure off too, in knowing that you're actually stepping into the conversation to help change their perspective. You're not just selling something, like you're genuinely helping them.
Yeah. Well, I do a session on the top 10, call them sales and communication mistakes. We call them modern day sales principles. And the biggest mistake is that people have the wrong intent, that people are going into an interaction trying to make a sale. And if you do that, like the little kind of jokey thing I always say is that we're water beings. Our brain is 90% water. We are 70% water ourselves. We're like a cucumber, and water follows the path of least resistance. So if you're designed to follow the path of least resistance, you're going to ask surface level questions that gets you to your close and asking for the business as quickly as possible. What we need to do is get comfortable with following the path of most resistance, which is to ask the tougher questions that get deeper, so that I can categorically say, you do have a problem that we can solve. And so my intent is not to make a sale. My intent is to find out if a sale should be made.
Yes.
And that's harder for a lot of people. But by default of doing that, you're curious, you connect. If you can do that whilst dropping in what we call value builders, in building credibility in yourself, you position yourself as a trusted advisor, and then you'll get to the end more often than not, and they'll go, what do you think? And that's the holy grail then. And then you have to have what we call your invisible integrity line, where now you're in control and you've got to go either, yes, this is right for you, or no, this is not right for you. And that's where a lot of salespeople fall over.
Yeah.
They're good at getting people to closing. They get asked for their advice and they sell something that shouldn't be sold.
Yeah, I really love that. Asking the questions to determine whether something should be sold rather than making a sale. It's really beautiful. And I think that, I only actually learned what SWISH stood for like a few months ago.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Because I'm thinking like, oh, SWISH, that's like a cool name. But then, selling with integrity, selling honestly.
Yeah.
And, I think, as you said at the start of this, like we've all been on a conversation or a sales call where we have felt backed into a corner, pressure tactics. There's nothing worse.
Yeah.
Where did you get the inspiration to name the company that?
So we were ISS Gold Coast, or ISSGC, which was International Sales School Gold Coast. So International Sales School Gold Coast. Is that we were really ambitious, but didn't really believe it. And this was 2014. And at the same time, ISIS became really prominent. So we had a recruitment arm. So it was ISS, the part of it was ISS recruitment. So if you search ISS recruitment, ISIS recruitment comes up, because they had a better SEO than us. So we were like, okay, we got to change this. So we changed it to ISR training and recruitment. But it never really meant anything. It was international sales and real estate training. We did a lot of real estate at the beginning. It was international sales recruitment.
Yeah.
It never really felt like it was ours. And we started talking to branding companies, and a lot of people would go, well, what do you guys stand for, as we were maturing? And I think it was 2019, Jack and I were talking. We were talking about having a rebrand, and we were just chatting away about what do we stand for. And he said to me, is there anything that you say when you deliver training when you're going out to a company? I was like, I don't know. He goes, well, let's just do our open, see if there's anything that stands out. And I said, I just say, hey guys, this is who I am. Today is, I always go, if you want a Jordan Belfort-esque event, then you're at the wrong event. This is about teaching you to sell with integrity, sell honestly. And then we both went, SWISH. We almost at the same time, we just said SWISH straight away, and it just stuck. That was it. And it really did. It was the epitome of what we stand for.
It's brilliant, man. And was this before the whole Shark Tank?
This was after.
After?
So yeah, because they told us we were going to rebrand before. Then we were going to rebrand straight after, but we had 1.1 million viewers on that episode that knew ISR training. So there was a bit of friction about, oh, it's too soon, let's not rebrand just yet, because we still get lots of views on the episode now, 7 years later. Blows my mind. And we don't even do what we talked about on the show now. We're still sales coaches, but we don't do the recruitment side. So we held off for a little while, but I just felt we had to change it. And then in the end, Jack exited, and I followed through with the rebrand. And what was interesting, because as we went through that, was almost instantly overnight, we repelled all the Jordan Belfort wannabes. As soon as we said we're going to teach you to sell with integrity, sell honestly, they just don't come to us. We repelled all the dickheads. With respect, a lot of real estate people don't come to us anymore. It's quite interesting. We have I'm probably going to get this wrong. My team will kill me. I get this the wrong way around every time. 32% of our clients are not in sales. They're in HR, they're in admin, they're on reception, they are in retentions or customer service, and then 42% of our members are female.
Wow.
Which is unheard of for a sales training company. So usually for a sales training company, again, if you look at like a Jeremy Miner or an Andy Elliott, probably about 99.9% male.
Hardcore.
It's less than 5% are female, whereas ours is almost half now. That was never the intention, but I'm really proud of that, because I think there's some great salespeople out there, regardless of gender, that are just they're resistant to train because they don't want to be seen as a salesperson. But the irony is, the less you train, the more salesy you sound.
Absolutely.
Because you're saying all the fundamental things that make you sound like a salesperson.
Yeah. Have you been able to put your finger on why you've had so many women come through?
I think the message. I think the rebrand. I think like the way we phrase it is basically about articulating your value in a more effective and efficient manner. It's not about smashing people over the head. That's really our constant message. Is that I love the phrase. I don't know if I made this up. I feel like I did. Selling is telling your truth better. Everybody has a truth. I've been on a journey. I never used to talk about sleeping on the bathroom floor. I was embarrassed by it. I never used to talk about my dad. I wasn't embarrassed by it, but I just didn't think people cared. And to be fair, they actually don't care. And I do say this a lot. People don't care about your story, but they need to hear it.
That's right.
So I was just telling this was my truth. This was my journey. And everybody has a truth, but we don't know how to articulate it. That's why sometimes the wrong person gets hired for the job, because they were able to articulate their journey better, but they weren't the best qualified person for the job. So the introverts, the S personality types, the ones that would sit in a meeting with all these great ideas and never speak up, they're the ones that we seem to attract. And I love it.
And I know many females who make great salespeople. We're actually in the process right now, because I do pretty well all the sales in our company at the moment. And we're looking at putting on a female salesperson. Just to have that balance as well, to actually have someone female that can take those calls and amazing, man. So I'm curious, because you talk about sales and communication is realistically like they're the same thing almost, right? Like there's
Pretty much.
Why are you so big on communication itself? Like, do you do a lot of this in your trainings and in your boot camps and things like that, educating people and teaching them how to communicate better as a whole? Is this part of what you do?
Like the SWISH is an acronym for the business mantra, I guess, selling with integrity, selling honestly, but it also builds up the 5 core pillars of what we teach, which is state of mind, winning first impressions, identifying personas, securing clients for life, and harnessing a world-class culture. So we often say that sales is not a team, it's a culture. And every single person, if we can get every single person in a company communicating better at every stage, internally and externally, that will enhance the experience for the customer. So everything is customer back. So the example I use a lot is I was at I often say Bunnings, but it's not. It was Baby Bunting, very different place.
Very different.
When we had our second baby, Fox, I was at Baby Bunting. We were buying a second car seat. The lady at the front in Baby Bunting, super friendly, couldn't have been nicer to me, like amazing. Bought this car seat, more than I wanted to spend, but I bought it anyway.
Always in Baby Bunting.
Because she sold me really well. And I appreciate a good sales process. We then drive around the back. It's raining. You go back. The roller doors come up, and this guy comes out. He's in a high vis, and he's like, "Yeah." I rang the bell. "Yeah." I said, "Oh, we just bought this." He took the receipt, didn't look at me, pulled the roller doors down, left me standing out in the rain. And I'm like, I don't know what just happened here. Then he pulls it back up again, puts the car seat in the cardboard box, puts it out on the floor in the rain. Now I have to load it back into my car, and he pulls the roller doors down. That's it, we're done. That's the transaction. And I drove off. I remember saying to Alicia, I was like, that guy hates his job. Right? She loves her job.
Yeah.
Front end.
Yeah.
Making sales, making commissions. The warehouse team hate their job.
Yeah.
That gave me an impression of what Baby Bunting might treat their warehouse staff like. So he's a representation of their brand. He might be treated exceptionally well. Who knows? But on that day, he made me think that I don't want to do business with Baby Bunting again.
Yeah.
So what does your receptionist do? What does your administrator do? What does your cleaner do? What does the garden do? Every single person has an opportunity to enhance my experience. So another really pertinent one that you'll be able to relate to. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we ran our boot camp at the convention center. The sales rep gets us in and sells us on the space, and they're good, and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
The AV team retain us, and they didn't even know it. And I told them, I was like, you guys are phenomenal. You make my job on stage so easy. You are so attentive. The lights are perfect. Nothing is an issue for you guys. The music's on point. The lights come down low. They're like, we're just doing our job. I'm like, no, you guys go above and beyond, and you don't even know it. You're so welcoming. You got a smile on your face. As far as the attendees go, everybody in that room is SWISH.
Yeah.
That's working. So you guys are representing us in the right light. We were buying them coffees every day. We buy them wine. I was like, you guys just got the convention center another $300,000 deal because of the way you conduct yourself. So AV people will go, I'm not in sales. Yes, you are.
Yeah.
You just got, and then the sales rep for convention center is going to get the next sale and they'll get their commission.
Yeah.
But it was the AV guys that keep us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. It's a whole ecosystem.
Yeah. 100%.
From start to finish.
Yeah.
And I've had so many experiences like that where on the front end, it's really great. And then somewhere along the journey, you're like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah. Where did we lose that?
This started so well, and now either it's the customer service on from that, or it's the next person you deal with. It's night and day. And I think it takes a lot of awareness to think like you have outside the box and not just judge the person for what they did that morning and go, no, hold on, like, what's the deeper issue?
Yeah.
Like, what is the deeper issue? And I'm going to assume that, culture is a big thing in SWISH. Like, how much time do you spend on the culture itself and building culture?
Oh, it's daily. It's I mean, we don't reference it as we're working on culture right now, but the rhythm, like the morning huddles, the sales surgeries, the role plays, the mad minutes that we have where if we sense that somebody's feeling down, anybody at any time can put Darude Sandstorm on and you have to have a compulsory dance. And I hated this stuff at the beginning. I'm an engineer. I'm an introverted engineer. I just want to
see type 2. You're like,
I just want to sit in my office and not talk to anybody. But it gets you, and it changes state really quickly. We consider the music that's on in reception, the candles that are burning, the what's on the TV. If somebody walks in, what is the feeling they're going to get when they first walk in? When they walk in our boardroom, we've got what we call our success wall, which is basically lots of plaques of all the big clients that we've coached over the years. Yeah. The client comes in, they get, if we've got a meeting, their seat will have, they'll have a notepad, a pen, whatever drink they want, they'll have some water. And they're facing the success wall. So my back as the person hosting the meeting is that. So they're getting all that promoted to them. But like, does that enhance their experience? It builds up levels of trust. It lowers their sales defenses, so they enjoy being there more. Yeah. Does it help us make a sale? Potentially. It's not. I'm not trying to sell to you by showing you that. I'm giving myself the best chance. I'm telling you my truth better. That wall is not a lie. We've coached all of these people. But by sitting you there instead of there, I tell my truth better.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's brilliant. I spoke to a lot of people lately that are actually getting into sales. So this conversation has come at a great time. What would you say to someone out there that's starting in sales at the very beginning of their journey? What would be your biggest piece of advice for them right now? I've been speaking to people that are like, I'm going on a commission-based thing. I'm jumping into sales. I'm changing careers. I'm trying something different. I think what I've learned from a lot of people I'm speaking to is that they're learning that there is a lot of opportunity in sales. Like if you get good at it, there's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of impact to be made. Yeah. So for the people at the start, who might be having this big idea, but they're nervous to ask for an exchange, like, what do you say to these people? what's the best piece of advice you can give them right at the start? You know,
This has evolved for me over the years, this type of question. Now, I'd say, remember you're dealing with a human being at the end of the phone or on the Zoom or at a cafe, whatever it is. It's a human being that has feelings, that's got family, they've got stresses. And if you keep that at the forefront, you'll also be aware of how or hopefully be aware of how they might be feeling when you do or say certain things.
Yeah.
When I stopped studying selling and I started studying people and human behavior, and I thought about, if I say this word, if I say the word contract, what will that make somebody feel? If I say the word budget, or if I say the word lock in, how does somebody feel? What happens to them internally? And I started to obsess over that. And I think when you think about the interaction in that light, you'll change the way you do things. So actually care.
Yeah.
Like actually care about the ramifications of what might happen if somebody buys your thing, whatever it is, short and long term. Because you might sell them something for $5,000 and you get a $500 commission. That might not change your life for $500. It might compound it, but it could be massively detrimental to their life forever.
Yeah.
So I think, just realize they're human beings. Just be human. Remove any phone voice that you've got.
Yeah.
I had a terrible phone voice when I first started. I thought I had to be overly corporate. And
What did it sound like?
it would literally be a good afternoon. Is that Paul? Ryan Tuckwood speak. Like, it was like, I thought it was a radio presenter or a DJ. It's so hard to do that because you're actually becoming someone that you're not. So, and I'm not saying, because a lot of people go, just be yourself. No, don't be yourself.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you could do, because you got to be a better version of yourself, not the best version of yourself. I don't think we actually become the best version of ourselves ever.
Yeah.
But be a better version of yourself, because if you're doing that, you're always learning.
Yeah.
As well. So be obsessive. But this is the highest paid profession in the world. I'm earning more as a sales rep than doctors and surgeons anywhere around the world. It is an uncapped career, and if you're gonna go into it, or if you're gonna own a business, we all say without sales business fails. Steve Baxter gave us that one after Shark Tank. So treat it as though it's a career. You'd spend 3 or 4 years at uni studying to become whatever. This is a lifelong study of human behavior. Don't just think you can learn 1 or 2 things and you're done, because you'll fall flat on your face.
Wow, I've always really enjoyed sales ever since I became a coach. I've always had my own businesses, whether it was a PT business or the business I have now. I've always enjoyed sales. One thing that I really had to learn over and over and over again is to take rejection straight into the face. And there's been some really interesting moments. You've been on stage with thousands of people before, and you've probably been on thousands and thousands and thousands of sales calls by now. Can you give the audience some insight into one of the most hairy ones that you've ever had? The worst one
on stage or calls?
Both. Some real-time stuff that you had to go through. One that really stands out.
That's an awesome question. I don't know if it's hairy. I used to put the phone down if people gave me objections. I don't know if I've told you this before. So
really?
That's how I used to do it. Yeah, I just hang up as a sales rep. I'd hang up on them. So they'd go, I could be like half an hour in. And you'd know if I was in the close because I got a red rash on my neck. But I could be half an hour in and somebody would be like, mate, that's so expensive. Like, what makes you guys worth that amount of money? And I'd be like, just put the phone down. Objection gone. I'd be like, done, dealt with it.
How did you handle that?
Just hung up. And I did this hundreds of times, until I learned the skill of dealing with. I've got the same process to deal with any objection now, and that's why I always say that skill overcomes fears. Now, once I acquired the skill, I had no fears, and it's the same on stage.
Yeah.
And the Jordan Belfort gig, when I emceed for him, I can't remember if it was day 1 or day 2. We did Sydney and Melbourne, and this lady stood up about 15 minutes into it. I was opening the whole event. I was just doing a little exercise on how to retain high volumes of information quickly, and part of that was to get yourself in the right state. And she put her hand up, and you're often taught when you're speaking from stage, don't open the floor up to questions because you'll just lose control.
Yeah.
Maybe I was a bit arrogant by then. I'm like, I can take questions. So there's 1,100 people in this room, and I've gone, oh yeah, far away. Get this lady a microphone, and she goes, this sounds like you're just trying to sell us some shit today. Like 15 minutes into the big event.
Oh,
but I'd learned to deal with hecklers, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
That would have debilitated me years ago. I never wanted to speak on stage. I'm debilitating for 3 people. And I've learned a couple of different techniques. One of the techniques is to go, well, there's 2 ways we can look at this. And that just buys me time to think of 2 ways. I normally give one way and not the other. And no one ever questions it. Or the other way is to get the rest of the room on board and chunk it up. So I said, that's a really good question. Has anybody else been thinking the same thing? So I get everybody else involved, and a few people put their hands up. I said, well, I'm a bit confused because we're at a sales training event, and Jordan Belford, arguably the greatest sales trainer of all time, is going to be speaking to you. Would anybody like Jordan to sell them something so they could see how he does it live? And everybody put their hand up. I was like, okay, brilliant, great question. So anybody else got any questions? And nobody else asked any questions. So like that, it was a hairy moment that would have debilitated me without learning the skills beforehand.
Yeah.
I've had so much abuse. So like, people literally telling me to go away and die over the phone. I'll find you. I'll hunt you. Like you're the scum of the earth. Like really aggressive people. And if you don't have that resilience, then you'll quit.
Yeah.
This can eat you up and spit you out very quickly. If you think that just being a nice person is enough, or if you think you've got the gift of the gab, it's not enough.
Yeah. I had a lady recently, actually. It was so interesting. Part of what we do, one of our offers, it's like either a 2-part close. So first, it's like, we're trying to find out if a sale should be made here.
Yeah.
I got off the one part with her and scheduled the second. And then she sent me this message that was like, I was watching your every move. I was analyzing everything. I could tell by your body language that you were this and you were this. And I just know that you're one of those people that are just trying to rip me off. I hope you go die. And I'm just like, okay, like
that escalated.
That just got like really, really big. And
Yeah.
for me, I went, fuck, like it would be so easy right now if I just took all that to heart, overanalyzed it, to just go, I'm not doing this again. Fuck that. The rejection muscle gets worked hard.
Yeah.
But do you feel like you just get over it by just being in it and just doing the reps and just...
Yeah, I unfortunately I think you do.
Yeah.
But there's a really good lesson in that, because what I did wrong right at the start, I am an engineer, so I'll reverse engineer everything. I'll overanalyze everything. It's one of my weakest parts to my characteristics. Character is that I will overthink and overanalyze and overprocess. So I'd get off every call and I'd take note of everything. That 300 calls a day, everything, and I'd go home and rewrite my script every night. I'm rewriting my script for months, just rewriting it every day, refining, listening to. There's 40 odd people in the sales floor. In the end, I'm listening to everybody. Oh, that sounded good. Add that. You can't read a script verbatim. You've got to read the person. So I'm a big fan of frameworks, not scripts. So, and I often say, play for the 99%, not the 1%. So how many times have you had something like that happen to you? Where
like absolutely minimal.
Yeah. So wouldn't change a thing.
No way. Yeah.
Okay. But a lot of people will take it to heart, change everything.
Yeah.
I've done it. I had a bad experience, a relatively bad experience in New Zealand recently when I was speaking to Goggins. I got caught up in this big pitch fest from stage. There was lots of other people there came. They were pitching the crowd hard, 4,000 people. And I had an offer to make. The organizer asked me to do an offer as well. I did it in my way, which I don't believe was high pressured. It was very swish. It wasn't like the other people pitching on stage. But some people on social media said that there were 4 high pressure sales speakers on stage, and I've been put in that bracket because I did an offer. And I was flying back from Auckland. I was in turmoil. I was like, oh, I just finished our national sales conference, 1,000 people, our own audience, and I'm like, everybody loves us. We didn't get one complaint. And I go to New Zealand. I get caught up with all these people that are really high pressured, and I've gone, I could change everything. I don't need to change everything.
Yeah.
I didn't. That's the first time that's happened in 10 years that anybody's ever put me in the bracket of high pressure salesperson.
It just would have been a generalization.
It was. Yeah, because I was by association.
That's right.
So what was the lesson? Is make sure you're associating yourself with the right people.
Yeah.
I want to speak on big stages now. I'm really proud of the journey I've been on to overcome that fear. So that for me, it was like 4,000 people. It was amazing. But now I also know I can create my own version of that. So as they say, if you don't like the tables you're at, build your own table.
And move it, yeah.
Same with the stage, right?
Absolutely. I love that so much. And no wonder you probably would have been in turmoil, because everything that you guys are about at Swish is
I was
the opposite of that.
It was like 10 years to build this reputation.
Yeah.
And in a one-day event, I've ripped it all to pieces. And my team didn't even know what had gone just yet. And I was like, oh my God.
Having an identity crisis on the way back.
Yeah, it was. And,
Yeah.
But what I did, I created a whole new business model. On the way back, I created the SWISH events division. And the events industry is ripe for being disrupted.
Yeah.
There's people are craving really valuable, entertaining and educating events without being pitched at for 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
They want it. They don't want to sit there and be pitched. As I always say, guys, we've got a website. You're all adults. If you like what you see today, you can jump on it. If any of you want to stay behind, I'll have a bit of a yarn about how you can continue the journey.
Yeah.
We do exceptionally well doing it like that.
Yeah.
As opposed to going, you got 3 minutes right now, go and take action and run to the back of the room.
Yeah.
I understand why people do it, and it's just not the game I want to play.
Yeah. I mean, if I think to my own experiences, the biggest investments I've ever made have never come from, you have 3 minutes, they actually see the scarcity thing. It's been like that, where there's been enough value for me to go, well, I clearly want to do this, and I'm not feeling like I'm backed into a corner, and you don't feel needy. So let's actually have an honest conversation about how we can do it.
Yeah.
And that's been the best way that I have been on the other end, because obviously I sell all the time. I have a business, but to actually buy, that's been the most beautiful way to buy.
Because, well, then you start whatever it is, the program or you purchase the product in the right mindset.
Yep.
As opposed to feeling coerced into something. And I think buying behaviors have changed an awful lot over the last, we'd say 20, 30 years, but I think they've changed in the last 4 or 5 years since COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in the most skeptical and educated consumer generation that's ever existed.
Totally.
And people are resistant to being coerced into, and there is a level of coercion by saying you've got 5 minutes to take action, or this offer's going to expire. It won't expire. It doesn't. I could call you tomorrow and I could buy that. I've tested this thousands of times, guys. Sorry to the spoiler alert. I'm gonna get what do they call, cancelled by other sales coaches. It won't.
It's like Rugs a Million closing down sale.
Oh, for 25 years.
Yeah.
There's a pizza place in Surfers Paradise that's 50% off pizzas 7 days a week. I'm like, that's your full price. That's just the price of your pizza.
Yeah, that is the mind.
It is, and it's
the bias.
But when you realize it, you get pissed off.
Yeah.
So you might buy in the moment. I was at an event last Thursday, and I'm watching hundreds of people stream to the back of the room to buy a $5,000 event. But I also know what happened on the Friday. The buyer's remorse, the refund request, the admin on the back end for that company.
Oh, mate.
I'd rather make less money, slower, and sleep at night.
Yeah, I know people are actually happy.
And they want to be part of it. Yeah. Like, I don't want to be training somebody under dress.
No.
We did this in the corporate world for a while, and we've really kind of veered away from it a lot now since I got back from America last year. I'll fly over to Perth, I'll train a team, 100 people in the room. 30% of them don't want to be there. They've just been told they have to be there because their company have invested in the training. Mm-hmm. On top of that, the company, they pay us some good money. So they will then tell us what we need to cover. So they're now dictating our content. I'm now an employee when I've got a process that I know works. And I'm like, well, what you need is this. They're like, well, it doesn't matter what we need. We're paying you. This is what we want. So then you go there, 30 people out of the room don't want you to be there. We always get them on board. Like, that's fine, but it's a wrestle. So the first half an hour is a wrestle. Yeah. Which is draining. I'm flying there. I don't want to be there. They're all driving all over. They don't want to be there. Yeah. I then dress the way I dress. They definitely don't want me to be there. And then so about 45 minutes, we're like, okay, all right, this is not as bad as anybody thought it was going to be. Yeah. But now you're on board, but I'm also not covering the content that I know gets you the greatest results, because I'm beholden to this big conglomerate that's paying me ridiculous amounts of money. So we stopped that, and we've got, I'm going to stop giving people what they want now. We're going to give them what they need, which is when we really evolve the legacy program, the boot camp. The boot camp is so tried and tested. Yeah. For 9 years. You want training? Come to the boot camp. Yeah. And once we did that, and we were really congruent to what we know works and who we are as people, that fulfillment arrives and that achievement arrives at the same time. And it's a beautiful place. I don't know how we got there, but
it's amazing. No, we love to go on those tangents. We could pick your brain for hours, mate, but I'm conscious of both of our time. So, the theme of this podcast is, becoming limitless in your own way, and we believe that that's a a constant journey. We're always going to find new limitations and go beyond that. What is your version of becoming limitless in your own way? What does it mean to you to become limitless in your own way?
Awesome question. When you said it, I don't know if this is going to answer the question, but when you said it, I thought back to when I felt limitless, I think, which was back in 2013.
Yeah.
In 2013 was when I'd had the real shift from a sales perspective. I was getting great results. I did $334,000 in commissions. And for me, I know to some people listening, that's not a lot of money, but back then that was a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah.
That was life-changing for me.
Yeah.
And life-changing for a few different reasons. Like my dad he's had esophagus cancer since 2001. He was given 2 weeks to live. He had the longest non-brain surgery in UK history, 23 hours straight with 3 surgeons. He shouldn't be here, but through that, their mum and dad lost their house. They don't have pension. They got no money. And in 2013, I was able to support them financially for the first time ever.
Amazing.
So that was life-changing from an impact perspective.
Yeah.
What it also did was change my belief around money. For the first time ever, I believed that money was in abundance. I had a scarcity mindset around money for my whole life. That if I had $2,000 left, $200, like hold it, keep it, save it for that rainy bloody day that no one spends money on. And that 1 year coming after fanatically obsessing over sales, initially for 60 days and then just becoming part of the fabric of who I am. I always say go to bed more educated than when you woke up. Like just being obsessive for a year to 18 months made that money, changed my whole belief system. And now I'm like, let's do a stage of 10,000 people. Let's book David Beckham for an event in 2028 to commemorate our 100th boot camp. Like they're the conversations I'm having. I couldn't have done that a few years ago. So for me, that's what limitless is having an unwavering belief that something is possible. And I often say, I said it last week at the boot camp, one call can change your day. 1 day can change your week. 1 week can change your month. 1 month can change your year. And 1 year can change your whole life. 2013 was the year that changed my life.
I love it. Beautiful. Answers it perfectly, Ryan. And lastly, where can everyone find you? Where's the best place to hang out? Learn about what you do a little bit more.
I'm all over LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. So Instagram and Facebook, I think it's at Ryan Tuckwood Official. LinkedIn, just Ryan Tuckwood. Or you can go on to swishsalescoaching.com. I'm pretty responsive on all of those.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, I'm probably most active on, to be honest.
Awesome. Cool. We'll make sure we put all the links in the show notes. But thanks for coming on, mate. It's been an awesome chat. I've really enjoyed it. And
That went quick.
I know. Time flies when you're having fun and having good conversations, but no doubt we'll kick it off again in the future soon.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks. And I hope everybody listening got some value.
Absolutely. Thanks, mate.
Cheers, man.